own without being harmed by human intervention. Clearly, this mindset is false because I'm standing here today to discuss this problem with all of you, and what's worse is little to no major action is taken at all by the world leaders of today. Due to this, we aim to bridge the gap in knowledge of teenagers' awareness on biodiversity conservation, environmental activism, and climate change. Now, I'll hand it over to Nadia to go more thoroughly through our research.
Now let's dive into the objectives of our research. First, we aim to investigate the teenagers' awareness of biodiversity conservation. Second, we seek to explore teenagers' attitudes towards environmental activism and their willingness to participate in such initiatives. Our topic can be discussed within a conceptual framework that consists of two variables. The teenager's awareness is the independent variable, and the teenager's attitude is the dependent variable. We'll discuss more on this later on in the slide. For our methodology, we have chosen a quantitative design and conducted a survey adapted by Lars MJ et al. From 2021, consisting of 12 items questionnaire split into two parts and an interview with 3 open-ended questions. For our respondents, we have gathered a sample of 215 respondents and 4 interview participants. And lastly, for our data analysis, we utilize SPSS to find our mean, standard deviation, and correlation. And lastly, we analyze an interview transcript. In our survey on the level of teenagers' awareness of biodiversity conservation, we identified several key areas that reflect with understanding and concern with environmental issues. The item, climate change causes significant impact to the environment, received the high score of 4.54. This means that teenagers are aware of the negative impact climate change has caused to our environment. Moving on to table 2, the teenagers' attitude towards environmental activism and their willingness to participate. The item of the high score is 4.60. You think it is important for young people to be involved in environmental activism. This shows that teenagers know it is important for them to be involved in environmental activities. Now, to conclude our data, we analyzed the correlations between awareness and attitude. The Pearson correlation of 0.668 indicates a positive correlation between teenagers' awareness of biodiversity conservation and teenagers' attitudes towards environmental activism. Based on the interview with transcribes, we asked 3 questions to our participants. The first question is, biodiversity is at risk of mass extinction. What do you think? We want to know if our participants are aware of that biodiversity is at risk of mass extinction. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, all of our participants agree with the statement, and they know that these actions, the human activities, are what's causing harm to our environment. The second question, we asked this question to know if they have a first-hand experience with environmental activities. None of the participants have participated in any environmental activities. The reasons are cited due to lack of opportunities, insufficient information about such activities, or being too young or busy with studies. The last question, we asked their opinion on youth doing environmental activities. All of our participants view the youth doing environmental activities positively, and they believe it indicates future potential, awareness, responsibility, and the ability to create a better future. Now I'll pass it back to Yusuf.
Alrighty, looks like time is chasing us. So, based on the data presented to you just now, I would like to clarify one thing: the value of the mean and what it represents as a number. So, as you saw in our methodology just now, we used a 5-point Likert scale. And while analyzing with SPSS, when it interprets the mean, it means the level of agreement of our participants in our questionnaire towards the statement. So, for example, just now, item T6 got a score mean of 4.60, and that is very high because the number is near number 5, which is the highest possible score, and our mean cannot exceed it because we use a 5-point Likert scale. This is crucial to understand to interpret the data we've just presented. And fortunately, all of our findings and results are in line with points stated in other researches done beforehand. Now, for the correlation, what Nadia meant just now by a positive correlation is that the independent variable directly influences the dependent variable. You can imagine it like a science experiment with the manipulated variable and the responding variable. So if the teenager's awareness were to increase, then the teenager's attitudes will likely be more positive. That's what it means. And lastly, for our interview, the voice of our 4 participants might not represent all the teenagers in the world, but their vibrant responses and perspectives are in line with points already studied beforehand, which proves its validity. So all of our findings and data achieve the specific target set for SDG 15, which is to protect, preserve, and promote the sustainable use of biodiversity, and in our case, among teenagers. So to conclude our research, for teenagers' awareness, we know that teenagers are aware of the issue and its factors, but they do not know how to contribute. And this applies also to teenagers' attitude. They have a positive attitude, they have a high drive to contribute, but they do not have the sufficient opportunities to engage. So, ways I would like to solve this problem. Firstly, schools should implement nature stewardship directly in school learning sessions so these students know exactly when, where, and how to contribute to the cause. Secondly, organizations and educational institutions should host more youth-led initiatives specifically targeting teenagers. What I mean by that is, let's say an organization wants to host a cleanup event or a campaign to promote awareness. They should take into consideration the population of the teenagers and the youth so that they can contribute firsthand directly. If all these suggestions were to be implemented, students will have likely a higher sense of responsibility towards nature, and they can directly contribute to environmental activism, conserving biodiversity. Lastly, I suggest a larger scale study should be conducted by actual professional researchers and published worldwide for the global population to see, because I believe such an important issue should be common knowledge. Before I end my presentation, why do we emphasize so much on teenagers' contribution in environmental activism and preserving biodiversity? Is because we cannot hope to rely on the world leaders of today to take action. And that is why we want to create a generation of world leaders of tomorrow that cares and loves the environment, because the best way to predict the future is to create it. That's all. Thank you.
Now, I would like to invite participants to ask questions.
Testing.
I would like to invite judges to ask questions.
Okay. All right. First of all, very good presentation. Very clear, very detailed. Thank you very much. My question is going to be something to do with the future. So, if you were given the opportunity to take this research further, what will be your focal point, and what would you change towards attaining that focal point? Okay. All right. If you were given the opportunity to further this research, what would be the focus of your research, and how would you do it? Thank you.
So the highlight of our research is using youth power to fight climate change. So if we were to further our research and to take action, that's the exact focus point that we want to integrate, which is taking action using the population of teenagers. We focus on teenagers because they are a uniquely energetic group of people that grasp technology strongly. And in a world of ever-pacing growth of technology, we need these teenagers that we can shape so they can become good leaders tomorrow. And the way I would like to apply that is by spreading the message and actually executing the plan. So for example, if I were given authority at my school, I would invite my classmates, my teammates, and all members of SEKOLAH Sultan MAHMUD to preserve biodiversity and engage in activities such as cleanup events, so on and so forth, and directly engage themselves in contributing to the cause. If that answers your question, sir. Thank you.
All right. So I think it is a very an eye-opening research, because you found out about the level of awareness that your fellow schoolmates have currently, right? So I just wonder if you have done anything after that to pursue that. I mean, because you are aware that your classmates or perhaps your schoolmates are lacking the awareness or are searching for more opportunities to do so. If you have done anything else after the research to help, provide them the chance to do so, or say.
If I'm not mistaken, you're asking if we have done anything after the research in our school. So yes, first of all, we've conducted a poster sharing event at our school. We given out flyers and posters to all our schoolmates to increase the awareness and so that they know about what we're doing here, which is to preserve biodiversity. And my team, my teammates and I have also firsthand experienced such activities. We went to a turtle sanctuary in Kerteh, and we've also planted some trees to increase the greenery at our school. So yes, I think my team have actually firsthand experienced environmental activism at our school and outside. So I see there was a student who wanted to ask a question. Is that acceptable?
Sure.
From the audience?
Assalamualaikum. Can you go? Is it okay to refer the slide with the Pearson correlation?
Okay, sure. Is that possible?
No, I don't understand.
What is your question?
Okay, according to common academic consensus, Pearson correlation coefficient needs to be 0.7 to be reliable. So, wait. Can I change my question? Okay. Can you, so since use the Pearson correlation coefficient to find the correlation between the awareness and attitude, can you simplify it? Because I'm quite curious.
So I think you have a point. That's a good question. Sister asked a very good question. So when analyzing correlation, using correlation analysis, the value -1 is a completely negative correlation, meaning the two variables do not have a relationship at all. And a +1 correlation is a positive correlation, and the two variables do have a perfect relationship with each other. Now, a Pearson correlation, we use a majority 0.5 above, and a 0.668 Pearson correlation indicates the positive correlation between the two variables. So the conceptual framework is achieved and it's real. That's what it means, the Pearson correlation. Does that answer your question? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, I would like to invite Sekolah Islam FITRAH.
Banjir masih genangi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to honorable judges and audience. It is such a great opportunity for us to participate in FRSIS 2024 and to meet you all today. Honorable judges and audience, let me introduce myself and my team first. We are Team A from Sekolah Islam Fitrah Al-Fikri, Indonesia. I'm Kiana and here are my teammates Mahres, Syafiq, and Arkan. Also our research mentor, Ms. Rika Prastika. We are here to present the result of our research on inventory of mangrove types and their roles in mangrove conservation in North Dakota under the SDG 15 Life on Land with Subtheme Promoting Biodiversity Conservation is the way forward. This presentation will be divided into some parts. First, I'll begin with background and objectives, then continue to findings, and finally finish up with conclusion and suggestion. But before I start, I would like to show you a short video related to our research topic.
Banjir masih genangi kawasan industri Muara Baru di kawasan Muara Baru, Jakarta Utara bocor dan
Muara Angke penjaringan Jakarta Utara kembali terendam banjir rob.
Jakarta pun diprediksi bakal tenggelam.
The video you just watched is the empirical fact that we are facing now. Have you ever heard that Jakarta, Indonesia's capital city, is sinking? It is sinking as much as 11 inches a year and predicted to be entirely submerged in 2050. This occurs due to the destruction of mangrove forests in Jakarta's coastal areas. Indonesia, as an archipelago country, has 70,001 islands. One of Indonesia's diverse coastal areas is thus of mangrove forests. However, the decrease in mangrove land is happening due to change of land use for the locals. Because of the ongoing degradation, Indonesia is currently being threatened by rising seawater caused by erosion and abrasion in coastal areas. Therefore, this can lead to higher potential of natural damage. Through this research, we wanted to identify the mangrove types, their roles, and their cultivation method used in the Muara Angke conservation area. From now on, this presentation will be continued by my teammate Mahres.
Thank you, Kakana. I will continue this presentation. So for this research, we use 4 quantitative methods. The first method is literature study. We read journals and articles related to mangrove. Then we observed the mangrove by ourselves and took samples of their leaves and fruits. Lastly, we interviewed an expert. We asked him questions based on our research objectives. Next chapter of this presentation is our findings, where we found eight families of mangrove, as you can see on this list. And we're going to explain them one by one. The first family we're going to explain is the Rhizophora family. It has 4 species. 3 of them are alike, which are Rhizophora apiculata, Rhizophora mucronata, Rhizophora stylosa, their local name is bakau, and the other one, Bruguera gymnoriza or Tanjang Mara and Lindur as the local name. So Bruguera here is the most different because it has a knee root while the others have a stilt root. So now let's get back to the 3 similar species. So what makes them different? Well, the fruits. Here the longest one is Mucronata's fruit with a length up to 70 centimeters. The shortest one here is Apiculata's fruit with a length only up to 30 centimeters, and Stylosa's fruit's length is somewhere between Mucronata's and Apiculata's length. So that's the difference. Next slide, I will give it to my friend Syafiq here.
Thank you, Mares. I will continue the presentation. The next family that I will explain is Acanthaceae family. In this family, we got 2 species, and both of them are alike. But how do we tell them apart? So we can see from their leaves. Avicenna marina has an ellipse-shaped leaves, but Avicenna alba has a lancet-shaped leaf. Now let's moving on to the next family. Now that I will explain is Sonerataceae family. We found Soneratia cassiolaris or Pidada as a locus. Like the Avicennas before, Pidada has the same root like the Avicennas is pneumatophores. But what's make difference from the Avicennas, we can see from the fruit. The fruit is round, light green color. Now let's moving on to the next family is Araceae. We found Nipa fruticans or Nipa as a locus. Nipa has a fibrous root unlike still root and a knee root. But Nipa has a super long leaves, is about 9 meters long. Now the next family is Pteridaceae family. We found Acrotiscum aureum or Waracas as the local name. This mangrove is type of fern and has a leaf with a light green color and is about 1 to 3 meters long. And now the presentation I will give to Arkan.
Thank you, Shafiq. I will continue the presentation from here on. So moving on to our next family, we've got Rubiaceae family. The species that we found is Morinda citrifolia, or mengkudu for the local name. It has a wide ellipse leaf with a sharp edge and an oval green fruit. And then the next family we've got is Combreteaceae family. The species that we found is Terminalia catapa, or catapang as the locals call it. It has a long oval leaf, as you can see, with a sharp edge on its end. But different from any other species, this one has a hard shell green fruit. And the last family being Asparagaceae family. The species that we found is Sansevieria or lidah mertua for the local name, which translates to parents-in-law's tongue. This plant has a long leaf shaped like a sword. Continuing on with our next objective, which is to find the mangrove's roles in the surrounding ecosystem. The first one being protecting the habitat. This happens in two ways. First, for the animals. For the animals, they use the mangrove's roots for their habitat to protect against strong waves and predators, and they also live there. And for us humans, we use it to combat strong waves and erosion and abrasion of the coastal areas. The same root can also absorb about 20 liters of water, salt water, so therefore it can decrease the rising sea level threat. The same roots, again, can also absorb metal in higher concentrations, therefore minimizing soil contamination and fertilizing the coastal areas. And last but not least, these mangrove have fruits that are high in nutritional value. These can be processed into foods that you can try. These fruit chips are from the Soneracia cassiolaris kind. And our last objective is to identify the mangrove cultivation process. First one being propagule selection. Those with a yellow tint on its end is then selected and then soaked in water for 24 hours. The soaked propagules are then planted in a poly bag in mud specifically from there, and then wait for 4 months to mature. It is then moved to an intertidal area and planted so that it grows and thrives. In conclusion, there are 12 species from 8 different families, as we've explained each of them. Mangrove plants play important roles in the surrounding ecosystem, and in cultivation, mangrove plants are selected and planted in the planting area so that they grow and thrive.
So here we have 2 suggestions. Since we only focus on making inventories about types of mangroves grown in Muara Angke, we suggest that further research should focus on calculating the index value of mangrove diversity there. And Muara Angke Mangrove Forest Management should work together with Jakarta government to be more concerned about mangrove conservation, to reduce the potential flood in some areas of Jakarta, and to educate people like us about how important the mangrove forest is. Now at this point, I encourage you to become aware of the biodiversity around you, try to recognize them more and understand their role so you will realize how important they are to our environment. That completes our presentation today. Thank you for your attention. Let's move on to the Q&A session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I would like to invite the participants to ask questions. I would like to invite judges to ask questions.
Okay, hello, hi. I would like to ask about the area, the area covering mangrove area covering the Jakarta. Where is it? Conservation area, Muara Angke Mangrove Conservation Area. How many? I mean, like how how large are the area that you think impacted Jakarta as a whole that contribute to the sea, a decreasing of the sea levels? That, I mean, like how much destructive area that contribute to the decreasing of the sea level that you are studying. I mean, like your inventory of the mangrove, like I see the whole of the species, but can you tell me or explain to me that how can you assure that these kind of species that that can help to maintain or conserve the environment in the mangrove area? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question. Can we go back to the slides? Yeah. Okay, and pause.
Banjir masih genangi kawasan industri.
Let's pause. Pause. Okay, so Muara Angke is this little area here up in North Jakarta. It's about 272 hectare areas of mangroves in there. About, I think it was 291 hectare areas of mangrove in total is here. And about 272 hectares is damaged. About 18 hectares is what we consider good in healthy conditions. So these mangroves, the damaged one are of course less effective to decrease the rising sea level threat. But the ones that aren't damaged are super effective because they can first absorb 20 liters of salt water. That's per tree. Just imagine how much water you can absorb in a single forest. And second of all, they can reduce abrasion and erosion in the coastal soils so that they can help us humans too. Does that answer your question?
Okay, just to add up, like, what is your efforts after all this after all this study, what is actually your effort in continuing to make sure the sea level problem will be taken care of?
So talking about efforts, we are only doing this to convince people like us themselves, their self, to know that mangroves are important. That's our effort to reduce this and also to promote biodiversity of mangroves plants. Is that enough?
Thank you. The team now may be back to your seated. Now, let's hear from the third team, Sekolah Menengah Sains POKOK SENA, to present.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I bid a very good morning to dashing Mr. Speaker, wonderful timekeepers, honorable esteemed judges, and members of the floor. Nice to meet you. We, the representative of Sekolah Menengah Sains POKOK SENA, and today we would like to present to you our research entitled Ratifying the Role of Education in Fostering Biodiversity Awareness Among Teenagers. Before we proceed, let's meet our research team. Hello again, my name is Shafiqah Husna, and today I will be the presenter. This young miss over here is our technical assistant, Alia Hidayah.
My name is Adiwati as the moderator, but for today, I will be the second presenter and Imam Tess as our rapporteur.
And not to forget, our beloved supervising teacher, Miss Shaharni Alia.
What is biodiversity? Rawan Agawa in 2015 stated that biodiversity is a different biodiversity variety, a different form of life on Earth, including the different plants, animals, and microorganisms, and the ecosystem they form. Simply said, biodiversity comprises of plants, animals, and the other living things, such as humans. What is the importance of biodiversity? One of the importance of biodiversity is that it boosts the economic growth. For example, do you know 40% of the world trade is based on the biological products? And secondly, it supports the ecological life. For example, biodiversity supplies us with oxygen and a habitat for the animals to live in. And thirdly, the social benefits. Social benefits give the fellow researchers more research to do on biodiversity so that it can increase our daily life technology.
Moving on, this is the reason why do we need to conserve the biodiversity. First of all, we can maintain the ecosystem health. What I mean by this is there are myriads of species that depend on other living species to sustain their life. When we disrupt the ecosystem, it will result in deterioration of other living things that dependent upon it for their food source. Next, by conserving the biodiversity, we can resist the effect of climate change that hugely impact biodiversity. According to Dr. Adriana De Palma of the UK's National History Museum, she has mentioned that lots of species need to move out from their natural habitat because climate change is making those areas uninhabitable for them. Besides, we need to conserve the biodiversity to safeguard our global food security as regarded by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO for short. Specifically, when our biodiversity is lacking, the usual plants and animals that made up our diet in daily life will be unavailable forever. Moreover, conserving the biodiversity can also bring lots of potential treatment for our diseases. According to Malaysia Forestry Department, they have mentioned that lots of white plants can be used for natural remedies. For example, here we've got Hempedu Bumi, or known as green cerata. Its scientific name is Andrographis paniculata, and among the benefits of this plant, it can treat fever, can be used as a laxative for stomachache, and can also treat irregular menstrual cycles.
Now, moving on to our problem statement. According to Nurul Jana Jalil and Zainul Mat Sharif, they mentioned that there are three factors affecting the awareness of biodiversity conservation among students in Malaysia. The three factors are lack of knowledge, lack of experience, and the lack of attitude. This is the research objective that we have come up with. Our research objective is to investigate the extent of the student knowledge and awareness about biodiversity conservation and the perspective on the role of education in fostering biodiversity awareness among teenagers. This is our research question. Research question 1. We would like to know, is there any significant difference between male and female students on the knowledge of biodiversity? Simply said, we want to know, does gender have the role in the knowledge of biodiversity conservation? In research question 2, did the student aware on the biodiversity loss? We would like also to know, does the student are aware of the biodiversity loss that is currently happening right now? And research question 3, did the student believe that education is vital in fostering awareness on biodiversity? And our interview question, what are the ways to educate and spread the awareness on biodiversity conservation among teenagers?
This is research methodology, which are the research design that we have used. For this research, we have used quantitative and qualitative research design. For quantitative, we have used questionnaire as our method. And we have conducted quantitative research design by using questionnaire that contains 10 questions based on 3 of our RQ, and it was distributed evenly to 250 pupils in Sekolah Menengah Sains Pokok SENA. And the data that we have gathered, we analyzed using SPSS. And for qualitative, we have conducted 3 interviews with 3 experts. Each of them is an expert in different fields respectively. And we have used semantic analysis that was used in generating codes for data analysis. This is the total of our respondents for our questionnaire, ranging from Form 1 to Form 5, both male and female combined, will result in 250 pupils. Simply say, we have chosen this sample as we use purposive sampling. We use purposive sampling for our research because it caters to our research area. Moving on to our data analysis and findings. Based on RQ1, we have run an independent t-test to see if there is any significant difference between male and female students on their knowledge of biodiversity conservation. After we have run the normality test, we run the independent t-test to see any variances. And from the data, we can see here, P equals to 0.77. P is bigger than 0.05. When P is bigger than 0.05, it means that it has no equivariances. So the null hypothesis is accepted. It means that there is no difference between male and female students on knowledge of their biodiversity conservation. Simply say, male and female students have the same knowledge on biodiversity conservation.
Based on the research question 2, we have asked, do you think that biodiversity conservation is a must for every student? 60% people agree that biodiversity conservation is a must for every student, where there's still 40% of students disagree that conservation is a must for every student. Simply said, there's still 40% of students who are ignorant about this topic.
On RQ3, we have asked the students, do they agree that our school has provided lots of materials regarding biodiversity? Well, take a look at this pie chart. As you can see here, 50.5% of them agree that our school has provided lots of materials. However, what about the 49.5% students? It seems that they still have the ignorance, and they argue that our school hasn't provided lots of material regarding biodiversity. It means that even though they learn in the same school, but still there are same students that are lacking in their knowledge of biodiversity conservation.
This is the expert that we have interviewed on. Mr. Muhammad Ali bin Muhammad Sofi, he's an Environment Control Officer for the Department of Environment. And Ms. Sister Rosla Binti Razak, she's a biology teacher. And Ms. Mahani Binti Othman, she's also a biology teacher.
Here's the first interview transcription with Mr. Muhammad Ali bin Muhammad Sofi, Environmental Control Officer. Here's the second interview transcription with Ms. Siti Rosya binti Abdul Razak. And lastly, we've got the third interview transcription with Ms. Farahani binti Othman.
What are the ways to educate and spread the awareness on biodiversity conservation among teenagers? From the Department of Environment standpoint, collaborating with the DOE or Department of Environment to engage with activities. And from the teacher or school standpoint, for the integration of biodiversity in biology syllabus. And for the student standpoint, they to be active in joining competition or quizzes organized by certain parties.
For recommendations, we have found out that for schools, they need to advocate environmental friendly practices among students and need to conduct more study tours for the students to learn more about biodiversity and its conservation. For teachers, they need to encourage students to participate in activities or events that related to promoting biodiversity and also apply biodiversity teachings in biology and science syllabus classes. For students, they need to participate in more local conservation initiatives such as tree planting, community cleanup, and more. And they also need to educate peers and community members surrounding them about biodiversity and its conservation.
What SENA has done to conserve the biodiversity? SENA Recycle for Life Club, or RFL Club for short, they have collected 3,000 kilograms of papers and waste products and sold them to the environment demand for recycling.
SENA also has done plugging that refers specifically to the activity of picking up trash while jogging, and we have done this at Gunung Jerai. Here's a list of our references that we have used in our research. And with that, that's the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening. If you ever feel overwhelmed with our presentation, feel free to raise your hand for the Q&A session.
Now, let's hear a question from the participants.
So I have a question regarding on your presentation. So you said that spreading awareness is a way to solve this issue, am I right? I have a question. So how exactly do you spread these awareness and informations to the areas of villages that have no internet connection, such as rural areas in certain states? How do you spread awareness to those places?
Can you please repeat again the question?
My question is, how do you spread the awareness of this issue to places that do not have internet connection or have no communication with cities, such as rural areas in certain states?
If I understood the question correctly, you want to ask how do we promote biodiversity awareness among rural areas that don't have internet connections or where information doesn't reach them regarding biodiversity. Okay, so our ways to educate the rural villages or people in areas where they don't have internet connection is by going to the places, and we would conduct a program, a youth-led program that would educate them, that would encourage them, that would raise their awareness about biodiversity conservation. I mean, rural places have a lot of biodiversity, right? And that's why we will help and initiatives to go to the places to teach them so they can learn about biodiversity, the importance of it, and why do we need to consider biodiversity so the future generations can still see them. Is that answering your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Testing. Okay, so my question is regarding your use of SPSS. First, it's like two questions in one sentence, but I believe you can answer both. So firstly, did you input all the data yourself or with the assistance of others? And the second is, why did you choose a t-test to conduct for your data instead of other tests such as chi-squared or ANOVA? So please explain. Thank you, that's all.
So thank you, Mr. for your interesting question. I believe the first question you asked that do I myself key in the data before we enter into SPSS? So simply say, as a team, we had our parts, and this young man over here helping us to key in our data based on the survey that we have conducted. Is that answering your first question? Okay, thank you. If I remember correctly, the second question you have asked us, why do we use independent t-tests instead of others? Well, first of all, okay, so can you move on to the slides of our research question? So, based on our research question, we have said that we want to determine whether there is a significant difference between male and female students on their knowledge of biodiversity conservation. So for RQ1, we need to answer that. In order to answer the RQ1, we need to find out whether it has differences, whether it has equal variances or not. So, okay, this line over here is the result that we have got after we run the normality test. Okay, so after we have run the normality test, we have run an independency test to see any equal variances to make our data more valid. Okay, that's why according to independency test, we have found out that P equals to 0.77 means that P is bigger than 0.05. When P is bigger than 0.05, it means that there is no variances. It means it has equal variances. The data has equal variances. So that means that there is no significant difference between male and female students on their knowledge of biodiversity conservation. So after we have key in the variables, and then only we assume from the data that gender is not a challenge and gender is not an excuse to not conserve the biodiversity. Is that answering your question?
Thank you. The team now may be back to your
Breaking news! Indigenous people now hangs on the thread due to marine life shortages.
More breaking news. CO2 has reached a peak percentage in our atmosphere, 0.5%.
Even more breaking news, Malaysia now faces frequent tsunamis at least once every Christmas. Well, the last statement may sound absurd, but it may just happen in the future if no proper initiatives are taken from today. Greeting I bid to the judges, timekeeper, speaker, and members of the floor. Our topic for today is Bumi Kenyalang, Safeguard the Mangroves. And before we begin, I would like to give a quick introduction of our team, comprising of Ms. Zarina, our teacher in charge, and me, I'm Eldon Jovayan, and I'm the main presenter of our team.
I am Shami, the presenter / technical assistant.
And they are Anita and Idina, our moderator and reporter.
To start our presentation, I would like to share a forward regarding Sarawak's mangrove as of in 2006. First, comprising only 1.4% of the total land area. Major habitats are located in the KUCHING division, Sarike division, and also in the Limbang division. For your information, about 16,000 hectares have been gazetted as TPA, total protected area, and 28,000 hectares remain as forest reserve and protected forest. Nonetheless, it is the third most important forest type in the state. Now, I will let Eldon to continue.
Oh, thank you, Shami. But before I begin, I would like to add on that the information given by Shami is sourced from the Ministry of Forestry Sarawak. So continuing on, ecologically, mangrove provide one, coastal protection, as they serve as buffers against storm surges and high winds with their intensely dense root system. Two, habitat provision, for a diverse range of marine life alongside improving the water quality with their natural filter properties. And three, biodiversity support, as they serve as early nurseries for which helps with the overall resilience and productivity of coastal ecosystem. Socioeconomically, mangroves significantly contribute to climate regulation by sequestering carbon dioxide from our atmosphere.
And you might be wondering, don't she and the other forests like the mixed dipterocarp forest also absorbs carbon dioxide?
That, Shami, is where I would like to add that mangrove have the ability to harbor 5 times more carbon dioxide compared to any other terrestrial forest types in Sarawak. Mangrove also provide locals the opportunity for livelihood through fisheries and timberwood harvesting. What seems to be just a forest is a virtue towards indigenous people for them to stay afloat economically.
Ladies and gentlemen, even all of that, there is a major issue. This leads us to the problem statement of the population of mangrove in Sarawak has decreased by approximately 25% as of 2017, with the numbers declining rapidly annually. To take as an example, in 1982, the forest in the Rejang Delta was licensed for production of cottonwood that was cheap and exported to Japan as a source of rayon pulp. This resulted in almost clear felling of the forest. The forest has since recovered, but the ecology, the original species composition and productivity has been altered as a result.
Nowadays, more factors can be accounted for as contributors towards this decline, to name several of them, which are the increasing number of aquaculture operations, water pollution, climate change, and urban development. It took, notably, the 2004 tsunami in India to make all, especially stakeholders, to realize, acknowledge, and appreciate the value of mangroves.
Our objectives for this project is to propose practical short-term as well with long-term solution to address this issue. We also strive to assess awareness among the teenagers as the other base people to take on the mental of the ongoing threat faced by mangroves in Sarawak.
Therefore, to convey our objective, we first conducted a simple survey in the form of a questionnaire for us to gauge on the level of awareness in students. This survey involves the participation of 100 students from our school, 20 per batch, and the scores were then ranked from a scale of 1 to 3, 3 being the most vigilant. So these are our questions, which is quite simple actually, 4 objectives and 1 essay. Even so, the result is as expected. 3/4 of the students only managing to secure level 1 ranking. This comes to unveil a low level of awareness despite the significance of mangrove. We received some feedback from our fellow surveyors, major comments being,
are mangroves really that important? They are like any other forest. Are you guys geo teachers?
At this point, aren't we?
With the information gathered, we comprise some suggestions on ways to prevail upon this issue. As mentioned, our suggestions are divided into 2, which are short-term and long-term. Starting with short-term suggestion, first, encouraging digital activism through social media apps such as TikTok, Instagram, or even Facebook, as they are able to reach a wider audience. Additionally, participating in outdoor activities such as camping and field trip. Basically, our main point is regarding awareness and understanding of threats like deforestation, habitat destruction, and pollution raises awareness about the need to conserve forests and their biodiversity.
For our long-term solution, we propose that teenagers partake in mangrove reforestation projects. However, this is not as simple as it seems. So before I indulge in that any further, I would like to share a brief methodology on how mangrove sprouts grow. Mangrove reproduce through seeds and propagules, which are essentially the baby trees growing on the parent trees, which will eventually fall down and will be dispersed to places with water. It will then start to colonize new mudflats and will grow seawards.
For today's status quo, this natural process is often disrupted by numerous obstacles, mainly involving the factors.
Just like any other coastal plants, trees, and forests, species colonization and succession has been affected by factors such as coastal erosion and rate of deposition around the estuaries and coasts. Typically for mangrove, it's around a 56% success rate. Mind that this rate only applies to the chance of the mangrove securing a mudflat, which should not be too deep nor too shallow. But if we're going to talk about the mangroves actually maturing to full size, it drops the rate to a measly 23% due to, as mentioned, there's too much factors to address. Main natural influences being the salinity of the water, the nutrients in the ground, and the availability of sunlight. Additionally, with humane factors, mainly pollution, can alternate these natural factors to a whole different level. And to top it all off, with the rate of urbanization skyrocketing annually, the population of mangroves will not last because we're losing drastically more than what we are gaining. Malaysia did take the initiative by sending out orders to state governments in 2005 on the preservation and restoration of mangrove forests in response to the 2004 tsunami that wiped out most of the population of mangroves in Malaysia. However, throughout its nearly 20-year span, 80% of seeds planted have died due to the result of, we speculated, to be the method used was inefficient, which was the traditional method of planting directly.
Makes you wonder, doesn't planting the seeds directly would give it a guaranteed chance to mature?
To that, there's two justifications, Shami. Just one, there is no precise measurements to be used when planting due to it having, as mentioned multiple times throughout the slide, too much abundant of factors to be accounted for. In the end, it would just have the same or maybe even lower rate of succession compared to the natural way. And two, different species is often used during reforestation projects, particularly the rhizophora species, which is commonly used in reforestation projects in Malaysia. This species is not really suitable as it is scaled as a medium to small size mangrove tree and is very vulnerable when it comes to the factors in Malaysia. This comes to show that planting trees in a place that is not native to will cause the tree to die early on, or at the best case scenario, to die with abnormalities. But even all hope seems lost, there is a method that is being implemented in other countries that shows great success that we would like to suggest, which is the community-based ecological mangrove restoration. This method is introduced by the Mangrove Action Project, and their methodology is collaborating with the locals, hence the community base, to study more further about the factors in that particular area. And rather than using that information to plan where to plant next, like any other projects, what they do is they manipulate these factors to make the conditions favorable for the mangrove trees to sprout with almost perfect conditions, and hence the ecological part. And throughout its report from 30 countries and in over 30 years, they show a whopping 70% success rate in the mangrove growth rate. This comes to show that an understanding in these ecological processes can lead to a more effective management, and under favorable conditions, mangrove can grow readily and with great succession.
To conclude, mangroves play many important roles to the well-being of the ecosystem. If no proper initiatives are taken, mangrove will not see the light of day in 10 years from now. As for that, we all are standing strong at the saying, no nature, no future. Thank you. We hope all of you got helpful knowledge from our presentation. This is our citation, and now we're open for Q&A session.
I would like to invite participants to ask questions. I would like to invite judges to ask questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Your presentation is very well rounded. A little bit too much, a lot of things for you to cover, but interesting nonetheless. Thank you. So my question is with regards to your last conservation suggestion about the CB. So with regards to that, I would just like to ask, what are the other ecological implications to other natural habitats there with the intervention of human intervention to make sure that the ecology is suitable for the mangroves?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Okay, what are the other ecological implications to other natural habitats once human intervention is introduced to make sure that the place is suitable for mangroves?
Give us a moment, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
So to answer your question, so I'll be frank here that this process, which is the I will say that's a pretty good question, that one.
Sorry for the delay, but our answer is we should do some research before planting on that area so we could know much better about the area. Any more question?
I'm just a bit curious because you said earlier one of the functions of the mangrove is. Okay. Let me change the question a bit. How do you think? Because the what was the program again? CB something. Okay, the CB thingy. All right. How do the locals accept the program? Because does that like coincide or go against their current activities at the mangrove?
Thank you for your question.
So to answer that, throughout in the Mangrove Action Project's website, it is shown that locals open-heartedly accept this project as due to mangroves play a vital role in their life, such as providing for their kids and providing for their well-being. Therefore, they accept this project wholeheartedly, as this project helps them help them secure their source of income. And I hope that answers your question. Right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for Sekolah Menengah Sains Kuching for your presentation.
Struggling together towards excellence. the slogan our school has been hold on to. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a pleasant morning I bid to all respected judges, timekeeper, and fellow participants. Today we are here to present and share with you guys about our research titled as Climate Change, a Determinant in Bee Population and Biodiversity. First of all, let me introduce the members of the group. Hi, my name is Izzuddin.
Hi, I am Arifah. So that is our reporter, Arifah.
And there is Najan, our technician of the group. Okay, so what do we understand from goal 15? First, protect biodiversity and natural habitat. And as you can see, we have chosen bees as our main subject because we find that bees are on their way to become one of the endangered species, and we should take a step ahead to prevent the population from decreasing. Next is integrate ecosystem and biodiversity in governmental planning. So what is this about? This is about bringing the biodiversity is you are. So what is the problem statement? The population of bees in Malaysia are gradually decreasing throughout the years caused by the worsening condition of climate change that causes bees to immigrate to the other places. This problem statement has been proven by one of the articles that we have found on the Google Scholar, stated that climate change contributes to widespread declines among bumblebees across the continents.
So, what do we aim to see here? So, the size of impact climate change has on the decrease of bee, initiative taken by bee conservationists to reduce the loss of bees due to climate change, and at last, the level of awareness younger generation have to conserve bee species. So here we have done 3 types of research method. So we have first done meta-analysis, which is by analyzing articles and journals from Google Scholar, to which we have found some interesting phrases to which we want to prove. So we move on by doing qualitative method by interviewing Puan Aliza, a bee conservationist from Taman Madu Lebah, Bukit Besar, Alor, Kedah. So this is the proof of us interviewing her. So what did we ask her in the interview? We asked her the impact of her enterprise on the population of bees. Is climate change the main cause to decrease in bee population? And thirdly, what should be done by younger generation to make sure generation can experience the benefit of bees and bee products in the future? So, moving on to the first meta-analysis back, we do it by analyzing articles and journals as stated earlier. So, what are the interesting phrases we have found? First, 3 out of 4 crops across the globe which produce fruits or seeds for human consumption depend on pollinators, written by Dr. James Kimani. Moving on, bees are the major pollinators of wild plants and crops in terrestrial ecosystem by Bunchman and Nabhan in 1996. And at last, again stated by Dr. James Kimani in his research, climate change and variability is a global issue of concern and its impact varies spatially. So for our third and last method, we have done a quantitative method, which is by doing a quick questionnaire involving 145 Form 4 students in our school, asking them about their opinion on this matter. So these are the questions we have asked them. And this is the result. For the first question, we see that 77.8 or majority of them doesn't really agree that climate change is the main cause that affect the population of bee. For the second question, we see that 44.4 and 33.3 totally agree that bees should be conserved for our future environment. For the third question, this is the difference. We see that actually majority of them, or 66.7, are not really sure whether younger generation understands the importance of bee conservation. And for the last close-ended question, it is shown that majority of them are 77.8 and 11.1 agree and totally agree that many initiatives have been done to conserve bees. So this is the question for our open-ended question. We have picked 3 out of those 145 respondents, as we see, because their responses are very unique to us. Why? All of them agree, but why do they agree? They agree because they think our biodiversity is now on the brink of destruction because of inherent attitude of some parts of the country's community. And they also stated it is because bees are one of the most important insects in our nature. As we know, bees are the major pollinators of our crops. So if we take more care of them, if all ages such as adults, teens, and kids find out more about biodiversity, it will lead to our country's advancement. So what do we actually find out? We find out factors that lead to decrease in bee population, severity of climate change, and at last, measures taken by the government. So, take a look at this statement. Habitat loss is the major threat to bee diversity, while invasive species, emerging diseases, pesticide use, and climate change also have the potential to impact bee population. By Mark Jefferson Brown and Robert Jackson Paxton. From this statement, we see that actually climate change is not the main cause to decrease in bee population. So what are the factors? The factors that lead to decrease in bee population, published by Utah State University Extension and Utah Plant Plus Diagnostic Laboratory, is improper apiary management or poor habitat care, competition in bees, pesticide use, poor nutrition, habitat loss, colony collapse disorder, and climate change. So, Izu, if it is not an important thing, why should we focus more on it? It's not that important. We don't have to find out about it, right?
Like stated earlier, it might not have been a direct cause, but it will lead to affect the other factors. So both of this statement has proven and shows how climate change affect the other factors is climate change has also affected honeybees by affecting the floral resources available to them and has introduced more of the natural enemies. The significant reduction in Malaysia's population of bees due to difficulties to adapt and thrive with the increasing temperature and reduced humidity, leading to shorter life cycle recorded among bees in Malaysia. So, what are the measures taken and also help to improve the quality of bees byproducts? This further confirmed after Puan Aliza admit that she has received help from the government, or especially MARDI or Malaysia Agricultural Research Development Institute, that has helped and approved her enterprise as one of the agrotourism spot in Malaysia. So what are the solutions that can we think be implemented to help settle this problem? First, we can look by adapt the other countries' initiative. As example, the Czech Republic has invited the thermoscolar hive. So what does it do? The thermoscolar hive has a higher and a therapeutic device that works off variable disruptors by using the solar energy. So I'm calling out all the Malaysian conservationists to be a part of this move. Next is we're supporting the university's researchers in finding or creating new species of bees that can fit the hotter surroundings. As I stated earlier, most of the factors, the decreasing in the population of bees is by the immigrating of bees to the other places due to the hot weather. Thirdly, is giving out awareness. We are giving out awareness to younger generation about bee conservation and how important bees in our life. As you know, bees are the main pollinators in the ecosystem. And imagine if you lose all of the bees in this world. And lastly, we are suggesting a community to donate or support the NGO or non-NGO association by promoting the association in your social media platform or inviting them to spread awareness at the annual event.
So, to conclude our presentation today, climate change might not be the main cause or main factor to decrease in bee population, but we still have to focus and enlighten it to our community, because as we know, our crops or what our food that we love today is pollinated by bees. Thank you for listening to us.
Now, let's be hearing question from the participants.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I've got two questions to ask to you. The first question is, as we all know, bees are quite dangerous insect for us as they have stings or whatnot. So could you please share any information or findings that bees are safe to be conserved as you have asked in your questionnaire? That's my first question. My second question is, as we all know, pollination insects are pretty important for us as they can ensure our food security. So what has driven you to do a research on bees instead of other pollination animals such as butterflies and others? That's all from me. Thank you.
So for the first question which you asked, so you think bees are quite unsafe to people, is it? They have quite the dangerous stings. So actually, bees are not dangerous. This is because it is proven by an association, which is my bee savior. They have give talk. They have give awareness to people that it is actually not dangerous, but it may be dangerous if there is human intervention, because bees does not interrupt other people's life, but it is human intervention that interrupt them. So for our question, for the second question, why did we choose bees? So it actually intrigued us. We have been eating honey. We have been using products made from bees, beeswax, lip balm, honey. So, and it is also because bees are the main pollinators. It is never stated. It is unsure, but it is never stated. It is not acknowledged that other insects such as butterflies and others, that they are the main pollinators. But it has been stated that bees are the major pollinators in our country. So does that answer your question?
Hello, my name is Anna and I'm from SMS Labuan. In your opinion, if bees went, in your opinion, what could replace bees if bees went extinct?
There are other pollinators such as butterflies, as mentioned earlier, butterflies, so and others, but we cannot deny that bees are the main pollinators. So that is why we are doing this research, because it is going to be endangered. It is not endangered, but it is going to be endangered. So we have to take a step ahead in preventing this. Does that answer the question?
Thank you to Sekolah Menengah Sains KUBANG PASU for your outstanding presentation. You may now be back. Let's hear from the last team of this session to present.
The world is not destroyed by those who are evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. From Albert Einstein. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very pleasant morning I bid to all the judges, teachers, and audience that are able to be here today. We stand here to tell you about the nature's secret weapon against global warming. First thing first, what is global warming? Based on National Geographic, global warming is the long-term warming of the planet's overall temperature, and we can see this from the statistic itself, which evidently showed the increase of the world's temperature over the course of years. So what are our alleviate approach within this matter? This is where I mentioned about our methodology that we use to conduct this research, which is through a quantitative method where we basically receiving response from our survey, and there's a total of 375 people that joined by answering 10 questions that we already provided. And one of the question is, have you ever heard about nature-based solution? And shockingly, a majority of our respondents says no. Well, ladies and gentlemen, nature-based solution is defined to be an action to protect, sustainably manage, and restore natural or modified ecosystem that address societal challenges effectively and adaptively, simultaneously providing human well-being and biodiversity benefits. We can see from the articles shown that majority of the governments around the world are already trying to harvest the potential benefits of this method. And this is where we introduce the method that we suggest, which is urban forestry by planting the dragon tree, also known as the Polonia fortunae. First, we plant the Polonia fortunae tree at a designated place that the government specially constructs with the cooperation of the community around the area. This plantation also assisted with dung beetle fertilizer to prevent soil infertility and improve the tree's condition with the help of its rich nutrient. And to simplify the method that we suggest. First, we plant the Polonia fortunae tree at any plantation farm with dung beetles and rabbit until it reaches a certain age. Then, some workers that the government assigned will relocate the trees at any location that they are required to. Moving on to our first research question, what are the aftermath that could be attained through our method, and why does it bring forth exceptional conveniences over other alternative methods in mitigating global warming? There are three positive impacts that could be attained, and the first one is carbon sequestration. It is because Polonia fortunae actually absorbs carbon dioxide double the amount of any other normal tree, and is help in mitigating global warming by reducing the greenhouse gas concentration in the air. Second, which is biodiversity conservation. Now the audience must probably wonder, why exactly nature-based solution and not any other alternative method to implement? We've taken geoengineering, for example, particularly solar radiation management approaches, which already carried significant uncertainties and unattended consequences. It also affects the regional climate patterns, reduction. It also affects the precipitation regime and unknown ecological impacts. And lastly, which is nuclear energy. For starters, safety is already a primary concern, as accidents such as Chernobyl and Fukushima have underscored the potential pass the floor to our second presenter, Muhammad Khairul Sulaiman.
Thank you, Dania. Let's proceed to the next research question. What factors contribute to Malaysia achieving more favorable outcomes by executing this method compared to other regions? We found that our method that we suggested was not suitable to other regions such as Florida, Iceland, Nigeria, Mongolia, and even Papua New Guinea. But the question is, Why not to other region? So the first reason is climate extreme. Those regions experience an extreme climate such as very hot temperature, cold winter, and even limited rainfall, which not conducive to the optimal growth. Second, soil condition. Our tree prefer well-drained soils with good fertility. And poor region with poor soil quality may not provide suitable conditions for the tree's growth and needs proper soil amendments and management practices. Last, water availability. Some of these regions face To solve this problem, there are three suggestions for those regions. For Iceland, we can plant Sitka spruce. For Papua New Guinea, we can plant Acacia mangium. Well, for Florida, we can plant silver maple. Next, for Mongolia, it's suitable to plant poplar tree. And last, for Nigeria, we can plant moringa tree. So why do we say it's more favorable in Malaysia? The first reason is climate suitability. As we know, Malaysia is a country with tropical climate that are characterized with high humidity and which can support the growth of the tree. Lastly, existing infrastructure. Malaysia have a good transportation networks and forestry industry expertise, which can facilitate management and the establishment of the plantation. Malaysia also have a good access to the markets and technical supports with the help of the government. Next, our recommendation, introducing to you missile glass. It connecting two types of layer, which is made from normal glass and a special chemical substance, which is tantalum pentoxide. This concept allow carbon dioxide be absorbed and reduce amount of it in the air. Every building in urban area are advised to use this glass adaptively. So what are the aftermath possibility? First, for the individual, it will increasing the recruitment of workers in various sectors. Second, for the community, it will improve the health and well-being. Lastly, for the global, it will increase the quality of ecosystem in our Mother Earth. In conclusion, NBS is the right solution to fight global warming. We call on the government and communities around the world to look upon this method to help stabilize the balance of biodiversity and improve the ecosystem effectively. Despite all the challenge, humanity advances. That's all from us. Thank you.
Now, I would like to invite participants to ask questions.
Assalamualaikum. Just a simple short question. Can you elaborate more about how glass is made? Thank you.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
Can you elaborate further about how glass is made?
All right, thank you for the question. So actually, the glass was connected from this. First of all, we made the normal glass. First, we made it from a normal glass, and we we connect the normal glass with tantalum pentoxide. Okay, so tantalum pentoxide is actually chemical substances that can absorb carbon dioxide. That's it.
So I have a question regarding on your presentation. So in the slide, I saw there's a slide about the phases about the plantation, right? And in the slide, I saw there's a dung beetle and a rabbit in the slide. So may I ask, what's the correlation of the rabbit and the dung beetle?
Okay, so actually the dung beetle help to fertilize the soil. But when we put like a lot of dung beetle, it will fight over a ball of dung. So we also put rabbit because rabbit produce a lot of feces, produce 200 to 300 pellets of feces a day. That's it, thank you.
Testing. Okay, I know you focus for Malaysia specifically, but I'm wondering, you said there was water insufficient issues in Nigeria, and you said also that we can plant type of trees, for example, the moringa trees. Now, do you have any ways to solve that problem, or would you like leave other countries outside of Malaysia to become barren wasteland with no life and focus on Malaysia only? Or do you have any solutions to that? Because I believe it's unfair to leave those other potential countries outside. I know you focus on Malaysia, but I just want to know if there are any solutions or current technologies that is created to deal with that issue. Is that understood? Do I have to rephrase my question?
Thank you for the question. So for now, we're only focusing for global warming. So we only suggest to plant moringa tree and other by planting trees. Yes. Does that answer you? Okay, thank you.
Thank you to Sekolah Menengah Sains LAHAD DATU for your informative presentation. The team may now be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the end of this session. I would like to thank you to all the teams for the fascinating presentation, and also thank you to the judges for your time. And so I end with Assalamualaikum and good afternoon.